kidding. Just one shot?
They're not all zombies, Doug. How do you fight this thing?
Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back.
It's a dance song to get down with. About 6 feet under. Get down.
Ooh, I love this song.
And now we come to the thrilling final episode of our radio drama.
Hello and welcome to episode 198 of the Rotten Views podcast. We're doing this one on an extremely hot and warm and sticky, humid Canadian evening. It's great living in Canada. 1 minute it could be storming and cold out, and the next minute you're sweating to death because you feel like you're in hell. It's fun. We love summer here. It's not even really summer yet, but the summer heat is definitely here, and it's kicking our ass. At least mine it is. I hate the heat. I hate being sweaty. I don't mind the heat actually. It's the humidity that really sucks. But yeah, enough about all that stuff. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we do get into the episode for tonight.
Housekeeping?
I think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
Could you come back in an hour?
Housekeeping, you want towels?
More towels. Need sleepy.
This one was originally on YouTube when I looked it up originally after the last episode. But within that couple day period, I mean, it's been a few days actually since I recorded. Maybe like a week. It's been taken down from YouTube, but thankfully you can still find it on Tubi. You can find like all the Lupin dub movies on Tubi, which, you know, that's just another reason why Tubi is a great app, so definitely go check it out. You know, they're not sponsored by any means, but, you know, go give them a like, subscribe to them, you know, make an account, or not, you know, have a free account, whatever. It's free nonetheless, but, you know, it takes like 2 seconds to make an account, so in that way it saves your content that you're watching and actually tries to get movies that you might want to watch, you know, because it pays attention to your watch history, unlike, you know, everything else on there. You know, you look one thing up and then that's all the ads you see for Facebook. But that's besides the point. That's another tangent, and we don't need to go on that because it's hot and I want to get this podcast started and actually over with, because I don't want to be doing this for hours because I turned the fan off, so you guys can't hear it, and it sucks. But if you're a new listener, thank you for showing up to this episode. I appreciate it. We're going to be doing some more anime episodes at some point in time. I want to, you know, space them out a little bit. Maybe make some Patreon content. I don't know. Who knows what the future holds? I really don't. I just know I'm having fun with this podcast, and I keep on, you know, plan on keep on doing it. So I think the heat's getting to me, to be honest with you. But then again, I'm horrible at speaking anyway, so it all works out. It's fine. If you're a returning listener, you know the spiel already. I appreciate you guys coming back for another episode. But for all you new listeners, go you know, hit that subscribe button on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you're listening to. You know, if it's on Apple, feel free to leave a review. If it's on Spotify, feel free to leave a star rating. A 5 would be appreciated, but, you know, it's whatever you guys feel like giving it. And then if you're listening to older episodes on YouTube, you know, hit that subscribe button, hit that like on the video, share the videos, share the podcast in general. It means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. And yeah, we got a lot of new content coming out. I got a bunch of artwork coming out. I'm working on a Five Nights at Freddy Nightmare piece right now. I got a bunch of other portraits I want to get done. We're gonna hopefully in the next couple months get an Etsy shop up and running, because I'm going to start selling some original artwork, part of my What If series, where I mash up 2 cartoon drawings and probably some portraits and whatnot, and we'll see how it goes. That's one of the many plans. But yeah, also links are down below, but make sure to check out my YouTube channel at Typhonstein. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, or X, sorry, as well. TikTok, YouTube is the main thing, though, that we're doing right now. I've been doing some live streams over there. We got various shorts. We have the weekly gaming video going up every single Wednesday. We have old episodes of podcasts, and maybe at some point in time we'll do a live podcast over there. I'm not sure how that's going to work out at all, because I don't know how well, it's just going to work out because I do a fair amount of editing. I try not to. I try to keep it as smooth as possible for the podcast, but sometimes you just gotta edit things out because I go on tangents and I just don't know what I'm saying half the time. So, it is what it is. Also, just a little quick sponsorship there. If you guys want to buy anything Dubby Energy related, use the promo code RottenViews at checkout to save yourself 10%, because I'd appreciate that. It saves you a little bit, it gives me a little bit in my pocket, and it means a lot, and I appreciate it. But with the podcast at hand, this is going to be one of your warnings. I'm going to give you a couple warnings. I just talk about the movie at hand from start to finish and hit all the points in between that interest me. So if you don't want to be spoiled of a movie that came out in 2000, which feels really long ago, but it really isn't that long ago. It is kind of long ago, I guess. 24 years, wow. Ugh, that's horrible to think of. Feel free to pause the podcast now. Go watch it on Tubi and get a couple ads here and there. But go check it out and then come back and just don't complain. Please don't complain, because I'm going to butcher these names as it is. So let's not complain about it. Alright, let's get ready to discuss this movie a little bit. The initial release date was July 28th, 2000. 73% of Google users apparently like this movie. It is a 7 out of 10 on IMDb and a 7.1 out of 10 on My Anime List. I know that site, but I haven't actually really used it at all. The description, as read on Tubi, goes: in search of a renowned piece of jewelry, Lupin spars with a greedy banker who will stop at nothing to get the trinket for herself. Directed by, I'm gonna butcher these names, Hideki Tonkutsu. I probably butchered that, and I'm really sorry if I did. My bad. Let's see, this lovely person has worked on some other Lupin the Third stuff from 2012. They also, they've done a lot of TV episodes for various animes that I don't even know how to pronounce, because a lot of them are not in English. But he also worked on Hellsing Unlimited from actually 2006 to 2012. So that's probably like his most known thing that's probably on the list. I know Hellsing. I personally have seen not a whole lot of it, but I've seen a little bit of it, so that's a start, right? This movie is also credited for having 3 different writers: David Haynes, Monkey Punch, and Hiroshi Sakabura. I'm horrible at that name, but we're going to talk about David Haynes quickly for a minute. Apparently he's credited for being on the script team for doing the English version of Spiral for 25 episodes from 2002 to 2003. He also did a TV show called Bakurusu Tenshi. Never heard of it, but it's one of his best known things, I guess, on this listing at least. We're going to skip Monkey Punch for 2 seconds and jump over to Hiroshi, who only has 2 credits for writing. For writing in 1986, he did Lupin the Third, Dead or Alive, and he also did this one in 2000. And then we're going to jump back to Monkey Punch, because Monkey Punch has done all the Lupin movies. Done all the movies, done all the TV shows, done everything Lupin related. And I didn't know there was that much Lupin when looking at his IMDb. And I feel bad for not knowing a lot of it, but it is what it is. I'm not up to date any anime. I loved anime growing up as a kid. I loved the design of it. I loved like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and Digimon and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't venture into the dark corners and watch more anime and search it out, because when I originally was growing up as a kid, when we first got internet, it was dial-up, so that shit was slow as hell. And to look anything up and stream or try to stream anything, really streaming wasn't a thing back then. It was next to impossible, because you'd have to load a YouTube video for like an hour just to play like 2 minutes of it, because dial-up internet sucks. You're lucky, kids. You're real lucky. I'm just going to touch on the cast quickly. In the original non-dubbed Lupin movie, Kenichi Kurita plays Lupin, and then we also have Inspector Zigita, played by Goro Naya. I'm sure you guys don't know those names. I probably don't care to know any more about them, seeing in this version that we're watching is actually the English dub and not the original movie non-dub, because we could do that at some point in time, but that seems like that would be a task and a half. I will say though, Goro has credits for Kamen Rider The Next from 2007. He's also been in Final Fantasy. He's actually been in 5 episodes of One Piece, and he was also in Xenoblade Chronicles. Sadly, he passed away in 2013, but it seemed like he is a very well-known Japanese voice actor, which is pretty cool. I definitely should look into more of that stuff, because like I said, I do like anime. I just, finding the time to watch any of it. Finding the time to watch anything in general is just a task and a half. But anyways, we're going to jump to our actual English dub cast. In the first one, we're going to be talking about is Sonny Strait, who's doing the voice for Lupin. Now, they have a lot of voice acting dub credits to their title. I know one anime that I've seen pop up a lot is Dr. Stone. Apparently he plays Mantle on that. But something that caught my eye when scrolling through the list very quickly, in Dragon Ball, he was the voice actor for Krillin. I'm just going to put that out there. I love Dragon Ball. And Krillin's a nice little short ball guy who's, acts real tough, but he's not real tough at all. I like Krillin, so that's kind of fun. And funny enough, the other actor that we're going to talk about is Christopher R. Sabat, who's doing the voice for Daisaku Kijin. I probably butchered that. You might know him for being the dub voice actor for Zoro and One Piece, but what you probably know him for is something Dragon Ball Z related, where he also does the voice of Piccolo, Vegeta, and Yamcha. Plus a bunch of other characters, but Piccolo and Vegeta being the main two that you need to really know about, because they're awesome. Piccolo more than Vegeta. But that's just my personal preference. Anyways, enough of that. It's getting late. I'm really hot. I might die of heat stroke here because it's so goddamn hot. I'm kidding. I won't. But we're going to get started on the episode at hand. So hopefully you guys are comfy. Hopefully you guys, aren't working too hard in this heat if it's hot where you are. Hopefully this helps you get through the day if you are at work. Or if you're at home just relaxing. Hopefully you got some, nice comfy area. Some AC on, whatever. And you're just about ready to relax and listen to me talk about this movie. Maybe you've already seen this movie before, or maybe you've never seen it before, and maybe me talking about will make you want to watch it, or just avoid it. I'm sure you'll want to watch it. It's a Lupin, so I think it's going to be a fun movie. This is a first time watch for me on this one, so I'm excited to watch it, and hopefully you guys are as well. So this is your last chance. Pause the episode now if you don't want to be spoiled. If not, then just sit back and relax and enjoy the podcast.
Presents Saturday Night at the Movies, the television series which each week brings you the finest in recent motion pictures. Tonight,
possessed by some of the most ruthless dictators, the power to dominate the planet. It's worth more than all the money in the entire world.
You got the movie starting with this nice animated scene of people on a boat. You got that nice detective music playing in the background. We see a nice painted cityscapes. Got some police sirens going all over the place. Got somebody a bunch of people actually at an auction house voting on some various products at the auction house. And I'm assuming the cops are all going there to raid this place. Maybe, I'm not too sure on that part. I love how just the animes are animated because you got the cops speeding across these intersection and almost taking out a whole bunch of people getting ready to cross the street. And then we see the inspector and the police force showing up to the auction house door, and the security guard's like, "What's going on?" It's like, under close watch, we have information that this place is going to be robbed this afternoon, and I'm not going to let it happen on my watch, so get out of my way so I can get in there. And lot 614 comes up, and the guy at the auction house announces, he's like, "What's going on? This isn't a yard sale." And he's like, "Well, this is the thing that's listed." And he's like, "So, do we have anyone to bid on this thing here? It doesn't look important at all." And then they're actually surprised when somebody bids on it. Then the phone goes off, and apparently someone's ready to bid $500,000 for this green and gold looking ring that the auction house presenter thinks is just a piece of garbage. And then the bid keeps going up and up and up, and then we have the officer in the elevator talking to the inspector. He's like, "The bid for the painting starts at 4 o'clock. What painting did it say again? I forget. The heat's getting and then the inspector's like, "There's no chance that Lupin would miss a chance like this." And then there's a $1 million bid, and apparently the call-in bidder bid $1,000,001. And then they're like, "Yeah, it's done." And then one of the guys in the crowd's like, "Hey, I wasn't done here yet." And the guy's all pissed off. He's like, I don't care about the next item in the list. I wasn't done bidding on that ring. I want that damn ring." Then we see handcuffs going on that guy, and the inspector's pulling off the guy's face. And he's like, "So you got on to me, huh, Inspector? Well, you're one step behind." He's like, "What do you mean?" And we see the inspector holding the fake face that Lupin was wearing, and it's a gas mask, and the whole face starts going up and gas goes all over the place, and that's allowing Lupin to escape through the smoke. And when the smoke clears, all the inspector sees is Lupin's face on every single person. And then we find out the ring's gone, and the inspector's pretty pissed off about it, which rightfully so. You see Lupin now in a police officer outfit as he's escaping down to the underground parking garage as he's, flinging the ring up in the air because, he's a hot shot like that. And then we see a laser going on Lupin's head. He's like, who's there? He's like, don't worry about it. I'll just send out the ring. And Lupin's like, it's just a real piece of junk just so you're aware. And then a bunch of other lasers go on. He's like, maybe I will have to hand over this ring. But, I got this girl who really likes antique jewelry, so maybe I figured I'd bump in, grab it for her and, take off. But he's like, you know what? You're right. It's not worth getting shot for. We see Lupin throw the ring towards this, Russian, German bad guy. And then he runs into his little punch buggy car and goes to escape as the guys are shooting at him. And then the intro credits starts to roll as we see a bunch of other, almost looking like military guys starting to chase after him in their vehicles. And we see that classic side profile shot of Lupin's head as the title font goes across it, missed by $1. And then we see a bunch of other title credits going as the bad guys are shooting at him. We see the glass on the screen breaking. Then we see the Inspector Crazy. He's taking off all these Lupin masks off of everyone that's around in the auction house. We see Lupin still driving his little punch buggy car as he's trying to escape from these bad guys. And it's actually a really fun looking position that he's in because he looks kind of almost too big for this car. So I like that he's not driving some fancy sports car. He's driving Herbie the Love Bug on steroids essentially, because I think his car is better than Herbie the Love Bug because I've never been a big fan of Herbie. But that's besides the point. That's for another podcast. We see him driving up this spiral ramp for what looks to be a parking garage, and then he comes to the end of the road and he just shifts gears even faster, goes right for the roadblock, hits the jump, and then he hits a button inside his car, and next thing you know, he's got plane wings coming out of his car because his roof expands out and it turns into a plane of some sort. Not sure how well it flies, or maybe it just glides. Not really sure on that aspect of things, but it's kind of cool, kind of like Inspector Gadget-esque. Then we got to a shot of New York City. We see the Statue of Liberty. We see some homeless people, which you don't see in cartoons at all, ever. We see some people playing basketball. We see this, this lady singing at this, nicer establishment club, kind of like a gentleman's club essentially. Of course, she looks up, she gives a little wink, and of course it's Lupin sitting at a table, just watching his lady, I assume, doing her little number. Like I said, I'm not an expert on Lupin, so I don't know all the characters. Don't hate me, please. And then we see this gentleman trying to rob someone else in a back alley. And he's like, you know what, you don't want to do this, dude? You might as well just leave. He's like, nah, I want my money. And he's like, well, fine, do you take credit? Because I'm going to kick your ass. And the fight stops, and then we hear the lady up from the stage who has she has a French accent, and she's pretty pissed off at Lupin because Lupin didn't get the ring that she wanted. He's like, come on, just let me fix it with a little kiss, please. And he gets clocked. That's when we find out Lupin and the other guy are actually working together because the other guy pulls up the car. He's like, hey, boss, you want to get in? I don't think it's working for you. He's like, come on. You think she likes me now, though? And then we see them driving through what is New York City Park, whatever it's called. I don't know. I am blanking off the top of my head. But anyways, they're driving that little punch buggy up the stairs, and then he stops and spins the car around, and Lupin randomly kisses this random girl who's getting ready to kiss her date at the time. And of course, the buddy with him is actually Dasaiku, who's the voice actor from Dragon Ball for Vegeta and Piccolo. Christopher, I believe it was. Sabat? Hey, look at that. I got it right on the first try. I was just using my memory. One of these days I'll be better set up for a podcast. But with this one, it's a little bit hard with the dubbing English cast because there's no real good site, and you can go on Fandom and find it, but it's not really a site that I like the layout of it for this kind of purpose. So one of these days I'll get all my notes jotted down properly, and we'll have a fancy looking podcast. I don't know when that's gonna happen because we're almost 200 episodes in. I almost said 2 episodes in. Jesus Christ. Hey, Edgar, just leave all that crap in there. Oh yeah, wait, that's me. I will probably. Anyways, we see them in traffic and they're following one of the bad guys, and he's like, you know what, let's just leave him. He's only a henchman. He'll probably take us right to where we gotta go, so we'll just, follow behind him. And then Dasaku's like, so why are we after this ring? He's like, well, it's pretty much the strongest ring in the world. Gives you this key to the brooch's power, and apparently this brooch has been out of circulation for a while, and the last time it was seen was in the Cold War, so if you get the two of them together, it's like the power of the world, essentially. And this brooch is like a gold bird with a green gem on his chest or his back, and then small gems all throughout the wings and the legs. And Dasaku's like, so let me guess, a secret historian engraved that ring with the secret coordinates for the brooch. And Lupin's like, yeah, that's right. You're right. And that's when we find out Lupin's actually after the brooch and the ring, because he's curious about what the whole fuss is about with the brooch, and he wants to see the power of it, because he's just a curious boy. And Saku's like, so you really got me into all this mess just because you're curious? Like, well, yeah, actually I am. So on the plus side, at least Lupin's honest with him for the most part. And then the car they're following actually takes him to the Bank of the World, BOW, and that's how Lupin got outbid, because going against the biggest bank in the world, so of course they're going to have the most amount of money to spend on something. Let me see Lupin and Daisaku on a roof doing a stakeout, and Daisaku's like, so do you see the boss? And he's like, no, I don't see the boss. And he's like, oh man, actually now I do. And it's actually a redhead lady, and of course Lupin likes all women. And of course nothing really happens of this stakeout, because you have the henchman guy telling the boss, Lupin's just a stupid little thief that they don't have to worry about. And then the boss is like, you're not giving Lupin enough credit, because I know he's going to be a pain in our ass, essentially. And it's like the next day, and it's all sunny, and everyone's just walking down the street. And then next thing you know, we see this random car and the traffic blowing up, and then a bunch of other vehicles start blowing up, and this oil truck blows up, and then we see this building, and the glass is all breaking, and then the director's like, and cut. Apparently it's all for a damn movie. A movie inside of a movie. And then we see Lupin talking to Fujiko, who's sitting in her chair at the movie set. I'm assuming she's like the lead actress on the show. And Lupin's, come on, I just need you, Doc. Can you please help me? And she's like, well, when are you going to start learning that you can't be chasing all these stupid little things all around the world, all these little thieves and criminals, or items, I guess. And of course she runs out to go talk to the director, and he's like, I'll never understand her taste of men, but then again she's totally in love with me, but I'll just go walk over here and be sad and depressed now because she ran away from me. Then we see Daisaku talking to this samurai guy who's like, what, I'm not going to get tangled in Lupin's stupid work and chasing these stupid items around the world. He's like, but you'll deal with that psycho over there who's like a Bible thumper? He's like, I should kill you right now. He's like, hey, come on, calm down. I was just talking, just telling you that she's weird, that's all. That's when the samurai guy's like, you should get your life on the right path and read this book, Stairway to Happiness, because it'll help you get your life straight. And he's like, I don't need that crap. And we see the inspector sitting down having a steak dinner. He's talking to two clients, I guess. And he's like, so, you're still paying for this dinner, right? Don't think this is anything more than dinner. If I have to, I'll pay for my own dinner, just so you guys are aware. But this is just dinner, and you're paying for it, though, right? And then we see Lupin and Daisaku in the underground railway area where they get ready to, work with some pickaxe and hard hats. And then someone else starts coming down the railway, and they're like, oh, we gotta hide over here. And then we come to find out it's actually the samurai guy, and then his name is Goemon. He's like, so what are you here for? I thought you were off on this, adventure, finding your internal happiness. I didn't think you want any of this dirty money. He's like, well, actually, I want some money, to be honest with you. Then we see Daisaku taking a pickaxe to the wall, and then we see Lupin taking a jackhammer to the wall, and Goemon just standing there, like, I don't feel like being that active and trying to break down that wall, to be honest with you. I'll just watch you guys work. Then we see the little mafia henchman guy with the accent talking to the main boss. He's like, what do I get from this other than just money? And she's like, you're not happy enough with killing the most famous spy? He's like, well, remember, I'm a very greedy man. I want more. Then in the shadows, we see these two henchmen guys showing up, and the boss lady's like, you know what, you gotta be willing to go the full 100% of the way and do what needs to be done. He's like, I won't let anything stop me. He just throws daggers or something, and it kills the two guys in the shadows. No big deal. And then we find out that the inspector was actually having a sit-down meeting with the two owners of the bank. He's like, so why do you think Lupin's trying to steal that ring? And they're like, I don't know. I've never dealt with thieves before, so I have no idea. And we see them inside this big ass vault for the bank, and high end security all over the place. Then we see Lupin and the guys breaking through the wall, and now they're using it like a zip line to get on top of this elevator shaft that's going up. And as they get on it, Daisaku almost loses his footing, but then his gun falls out of his holster, and Lupin's like, I should have kept that strap down, huh? He's like, duh, of course I should have. I'm stupid. And then Lupin gives him his gun. He's like, well, what about you? He's like, my secret weapon's up here in my head. And then we see them breaking into this bank area where they throw down all these smoke grenades all over the place, and the inspector's chasing after them because he's like, Lupin, you're not going to get away with this. And then Dasaku's like, ah, very clever, boss, using the classic smoke grenade. That's when we see Cynthia running through the smoke screen for the bank, and she's headed somewhere. I'm not sure where she's headed. Lupin just walks up behind her and like karate chops her in the neck and makes her pass out. And then he carries her off to the security door where her hand is used to unlock the door. And then once they're getting inside the security area, Dasaku shoots the control panel and they get inside, and Lupin's like, we gotta hurry, it's not gonna take them too long to actually get the door back open. And Cynthia wakes up and he's like, my bride wakes up without a kiss from her hero Prince Lupin. She's like, it was actually your breath that woke me up, how about you leave me alone? He's like, how about you actually unlock the vault so we can get in, get what we want, and get out here, or we'll just destroy it. It's up to you guys. And then we see the inspector outside the vault door, and he's freaking out because the security panel that opens the vault area to get inside is destroyed, of course, by Dasaku when they're going inside the vault, and he's freaking out because he's like, I can't get inside now, what am I gonna do? Then apparently Goemon's so strong, or his sword is so strong, that he's able to cut a hole in the vault ceiling, and then Lupin pulls out one of his clever Lupin hot air balloons and uses it to grab everyone and float up to the ceiling and out of the building because they got everything they wanted out of the vault. And he's like, look, it was a clean getaway, haha! And then as they're getting a little bit farther up, lasers come out of nowhere, and the whole hot air balloon is destroyed because Cynthia's like, you haven't gotten away yet, actually. And then they're surrounded by a bunch of security guards. And he's like, hey guys, I got your president here, the whole company here. You better not shoot or you might hit her. She might die, just so you're aware. Don't shoot at us, please. And like the mafia guy shows up in an army helicopter. He's like, release the president and give me the ring. Well, nobody dies. And he's like, you wouldn't shoot us, right? Because we got the president, and God knows where the ring is, huh? And then the guy just starts shooting at him. He's like, oh my god, you guys are crazy. And Goemon's like using his samurai sword to block all the shots going all over the place. And Dasaku's having issues because he's not used to Lupin's gun. It doesn't fire the way his gun used to fire. And then we see them getting into a helicopter to get away because the mafia guy is like fighting the security guards, and Dasaku and everyone else is fighting. And it's just a little bit of chaos happening on the roof of this building. As they're in the helicopter getting ready to leave, Cynthia's waving off everyone, telling them not to shoot because Lupin has the ring with him, and she doesn't want the whole helicopter going up in flames and the ring getting destroyed or damaged or whatnot. And then we see Dasaku handing Lupin the gun. He's like, so what's wrong with it? He's like, I just don't want a gun that hops around all the time, and every time I go to shoot at it, somebody with it. Then as they're flying in the helicopter, the other henchman guy pulls up in his helicopter and actually shoots a sniper shot through the helicopter and actually hits Lupin, and everyone's like in shock. And then we see Lupin falling out of the helicopter, and they're pretty high up, but we just see Lupin's body falling through the sky towards the ground, and then it cuts to like a church and a funeral ceremony. And then as the preacher is giving his sermon and talking about the person who has died, we actually see Lupin fall through the ceiling and crash the party. When the guy is in the church is like, hey, who's he? He's like, I don't know, but he looks like he's dead. And then the hitman guy comes in and, picks Lupin's pocket and then slowly walks away and drops a wad of cash at the preacher. He's like, I hope that's enough for a new roof for you. I know I'm butchering his accent, and I'm not really trying that much, but it's fun nonetheless. And then we see another ceremony happening at a funeral or a graveyard, and we see a casket being lowered into the ground, and we see the inspector crying on the ground as he's, screaming at Lupin for, everything happening. And then the other people there are Dasaku and Goemon. And then we believe it's Cynthia that's arriving via taxi and being like, this gotta be some sick joke. Lupin's not dead, right? And she looks down the hole, and Lupin's casket, for whatever reason, has a window right where his face is, and she's all freaked out now. She's like, well, I guess it is real. Or sorry, maybe it's not Cynthia. I think maybe it's Fikio? I butcher the names, it's fine. It is what it is. Anyways, you see them all at the diner, and Suku's like, if you would have helped us out a little bit more, maybe Lupin wouldn't actually be dead. He's like, well, now that he's gone, you got more free time, what are you going to do? He's like, well, I'm actually going to continue Lupin's work and finish what we started. And Goemon's like, but we just got to be careful we don't end up like Lupin, to be honest with you. Of course, as they're sitting at the diner, the cab driver comes in and talks to the cook behind the counter. He's like, oh man, this lady, I dropped her off and she tipped me for $100. And then we see Dasaku and Goemon underneath the table talking to her. It's like, you know what? This is probably my time to leave it, please, because I'm the one that skipped that taxi payment. So, see ya. We see Desaku going to pick up a new gun. He's like, so what happened to that Magnum that you like so much? He's like, I lost in a card game. What's the matter to you? He's like, I was just asking. I wasn't sure. I was just curious as though. So then we see them at this like old junkyard discussing things. We kind of find out the guy who killed Lupin's a former KGI officer, and he's working with Cynthia, the owner of the bank. And she's off trying to decode the ring while she's giving the henchman guy orders to eliminate everyone that was working with Lupin. We see them going into this building, and it's pretty dark. We don't know what's going to happen, but then there's a bunch of gunshots all over the place. We see the Seku shooting some people. He's like, I gotta adjust the scope a little bit, and then we see Goemon coming through the glass ceiling and taking out a bunch of guys, and then he's met by another henchman guy with blonde hair now. He's like, hey, you got my gun. How'd you get my gun? But yeah, the girl that's helping them is Fujiko. I don't know why I thought it was Cynthia. I got the names mixed up. Cynthia's the bank assassin lady. Goemon had to go actually save Fujiko from falling off this ledge, and then he's got her on his shoulders as he's fighting this other assassin badass guy. And she's like, you gotta stop moving around because I'm trying to fight this guy and you're moving around on my shoulders and it's really affecting me. She's like, you know what, you just gotta hush and get the job done. Then we see Desaku gets behind the blonde haired assassin guy that actually has his gun that dropped down the elevator shaft, and then we see laser beams going all over the place. And for what reason that assassin guy actually gets shot in the head, even though I'm pretty sure it's the laser beams from the other guy. Yeah, I guess they don't care who's on their team and just want to kill whoever. And then they turn on a giant magnet, and then the Goemon's sword and the gun that Fujiko and Desaku were using all get sucked up into the ceiling. And the henchman guy's like, looks like your weapons are puny little toys now. And then we're seeing bombs set up in the building. He's like, make sure you say hello to Lupin once you see him in the afterlife. Okay, goodbye. And then we see someone turning the power off in the building, so the magnet turns off, and then all the weapons land to the ground. And they're like, well, it seems like someone shut the power off, but the bomb's still going. And then we see a transport breaking through the wall and coming right at them. And then we see the building blowing up and flames going all over the place, smoke going all over the place. And then Prince's like, that will tie up all loose ends now. And then we see this transport actually driving through the flames as a hearse comes out of the back trailer and starts driving away. And then we see it's the preacher. He's like, it looks like the good Lord has answered all your prayers. And he's like, who sent you? He's like, you really can't tell, huh? And then he pulls off his mask, and it's actually Lupin underneath the mask. And then we come to find out that Lupin didn't die because when Jigen gave back his gun was in his chest pocket, and that's what actually stopped the bullet from killing him. And then we see them driving back in New York City. He's like, you know what? We gotta finish the job. We gotta get that ring back before someone gets it and it's in the wrong hands and decide to take over the world. Because we got a job to do here, guys. And then we see the inspector on the side of the road holding up a sign that says Japan on it, and the cars are just zooming by him. He's like, maybe Japan's a little bit too much of something to ask for. See, we're in New York City of all places. Then he changes the sign to JFK Air, and Lupin drives by in the hearse, and the inspector yells on Lupin. He's like, I'm alive and better than ever. He's like, wait, you're alive? Wait, you're under arrest, Lupin. And he goes to arrest Lupin, and then Lupin, apparently this hearse can turn into a helicopter, because then they fly away in a hearse helicopter. And then we see the inspector so happy, he's just like crying and cheering in the middle of the road as traffic has to drive around him so they don't run him over. And we see them all on this beach island resort area, and Jigen's like, so what are we doing on this island, Lupin? There's nothing around here other than a bunch of oil rigs all over the place. And he's like, don't you see, we're gonna strike oil and get rich. And then Lupin's looking around in his binoculars, and of course he looks over at Fujiko, and she's in bikini, and then he gets slapped in the face. And we see Cynthia in this business meeting, and the other company's like, you know what, we're doing really good, we like this investment, but we need to make more money. So then Cynthia's like, well, how about we create a war with the other parts of the world, and that way we can start feeding off on more money and making things more expensive if we go to sell to the other parts of the world. We see Cynthia taking the ring to a jewelry specialist, and he's like, it's got some blemishes here. It doesn't make the value of the ring any better. He's like, actually, let's put in this little magnifying machine that I haven't used for years. And they pull the picture up on the wall, and it apparently has hieroglyphics And he's wondering what it says, but Cynthia's like, we can't actually discuss that right now at the moment, but thank you for your time anyways. And then, of course, once she leaves, it's actually Lupin underneath the mask because he was pretending to be the juror the whole time. Then we see the inspector in a cab talking to this cabbie. He's talking to himself as well. He's like, what's the better chances of catching oil on one shot or catching Lupin? Or, you know what, maybe while I'm here I can do both, but that's probably not going to happen because I'm a stupid inspector. Then we see a bunch of guys on an oil rig, and apparently one of this oil rigs just, hit some oil, and it's a very shallow hit so far, but they know there's going to be a bunch more oil coming, so they're trying to get all these investors to, get their money in on the company. They're trying to sucker them in, I guess. And then the one guy talking to all the investors is actually Jigen in disguise, and then he's like, well, you better go check on that pipeline over there. Better not be leaking at all because we need to attract these investors in to sucker them in for their money. And we see Lupin on the computer. He's trying to decipher the image, and apparently it's really goddamn easy for him because either he's really intelligent or he got really, really lucky using some modification programs to change the coding in the picture that he took. And we see Cynthia on the phone talking to some guy who's sitting on the pool side of his mansion, and apparently he's a rich guy because Cynthia wants him to get all his money together to start a bidding war on the oil that's running through all their facilities, because apparently it's going to create this big giant bidding war. Then we see the inspector at the bar drunk, and the bartender's like, hey, how about you just relax for the rest of the night, cut back on the alcohol. He's like, I'm drunk because I can't catch Lupin. He's like, well, check out the guy at the bar. He's been here for 30 years, and he's been trying to strike gold in the oil field, and he sells his part, and then the next day, they hit in 3 days, and now that company is rich. And he's like, something doesn't make sense there, huh? And then, of course, we see the pictures fall out of the inspector's pocket, and the guy comes over. He's like, hey, I know that guy. I know Lupin right there. Yeah, he just bought my oil company. And we see the inspector being drunk, walking down the street, all pissed off, because he's like, if I knew the old man was going to tell me Lupin's under my nose all the time, I wouldn't have been drunk. He's like, wait, actually Lupin's probably in one of these establishment closed bars getting drunk us up, because that's what Lupin does. And we see Lupin be like, hey, old timer, what took you so long? I've been waiting for you at the bar, bud. And then the inspector chases after him. Lupin starts running away, and then the inspector goes to tackle Lupin and tackles him through a wall. He's like, see, I got you, Lupin. And then it's actually not Lupin. It's another guy, and then he calls the ambulance, and the ambulance starts taking him to the hospital. Then there's military police outside the ambulance, or the hospital. He's like, see, I was after Lupin, and he got away, and I don't know what's going on. And the officer's like, you're drunk. You need to calm down. And then he passes it on the ground trying to stand on one foot. He's like, we're going to take you to the drunk tank. But then we see the body being taken in on the stretcher, and it's actually Lupin in another mask being like, thanks, old timer, you got me in the hospital. And then we see Cynthia and her henchmen and a bunch of other people sitting around this table where they're going to go over some plans to do terrorist attacks and guerrilla warfare attacks on rich oil areas. That way they can start a war and keep all the strong oil for themselves to try and, milk out more money. And we see Lupin wheeling around on a wheelchair, still in the disguise, of course. That's when he notices there's a bunch of Mayan artifacts in the tiles around the hospital, and they're the same designs on the ring. So he's like, I gotta just get a picture of all these artifacts. That way I can try and decipher the ring and figure out where the brooch is. He does some more deciphering, and then we find out that apparently the brooch is supposed to be in the main room, or the main bedroom, which is now the operating room because the house is now changed into a hospital. And he's like, well, I guess I won't be doing this in operating hours, so I guess I'll just take off my disguise while I'm outside hanging out with the other orderlies, and they're just looking on like, what just happened? This guy just ripped his face off. Then we see Fujiko in a meeting with Cynthia, and she's trying to market up her oil more. And then Lupin walks in. He's like, hey, you surprised I'm still alive? I've heard the oil business is a good business to get into, so I figured I hang up my thieving ways and start an oil company, an oil rig business. So how about $100 million for my oil company, huh? And then Lupin's like, so I guess if you don't want to invest in the company, I guess I can't tell you where the brooch is that you want so badly, or I could. It depends if you get me all that money that I want. Then we see the little henchman guy getting ready to load up a bunch of weapons on various planes, and they're getting ready to ship it out to the various guerrilla factions around the world. That way they can start taking over the oil companies all around the world. Then we see Cynthia on the phone again with that rich guy by his pool. Still by the pool. He's like, oh, so we got all our investors ready and we're investing everything on this deal. But if you screw me over on this deal, I'm going to lose absolutely everything. It's now nighttime, and we see Lupin and Jigen going over the wall of the hospital and breaking into the building. And Lupin's like, I'm so good at this, Jigen. I'm so impressed by myself. He's like, just get in the goddamn building. He's like, at least take me to dinner first. Then we see the henchman guys showing up at the hospital. They're like, they're somewhere in the building, and we're just going to shoot them on sight. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's good. We then see Lupin and Jigen moving some tiles around, and they actually do find the brooch. And he's like, it looks like something you find in the lunchroom, huh? Kind of weird and ugly, isn't it? And then we just see a bunch of the military guys making their way into the hospital there with the henchman guy. And then we see Jigen using his normal gun to shoot a bunch of guys. And Lupin's like, why don't you just get married to the gun already? And of course, the lead henchman guy is like, Lupin's at the military hospital. And he's got the brooch. And Cynthia's like, well, you don't get him, because then we get two things for once. We get the brooch, and we get Lupin dead, and all the money, so get it done with. We see Lupin and Jigen escaping through the hospital on a gurney as they break through the door and go off this like little hill cliff that goes above the gate, and they're still going down on the gurney as the henchmen guys are chasing after them and shooting at them. And then we see the inspector on the phone as he's talking to his like higher up, saying how Lupin's still alive, he's on the island, and they won't take him back and whatnot. And then we see some bullet holes going through the wall, and then out of nowhere, Lupin and Jigen break through that wall, and they have the inspector on the front. And Lupin's like, I think your call has been disconnected. See you later, Inspector, as they drop him off on the side of the road. Or side of the building somewhere, a hallway maybe. Then we see them getting to like the warehouse, airport area, and then they're like, we need some good luck here, boss. And out of nowhere, Goemon shows up, and he literally just takes a samurai sword and blows up the jeeps that are coming after them. And then we see Goemon having a one-on-one duel with the other henchman guy, because he's also a sword fighter as well, and he's got a bunch of like throwing daggers in his hand. And then we see Lupin and Jigen crash into one of the warehouses, and then there's a bunch of missiles and everything all over place and weapons. He's like, so I see what they're under. They're trying to start a war so that all the countries will fight for the oil, and then they'll be the main oil source. And the henchman tries to stop Lupin, being like, you're not going to be able to stop our war. He's like, well, we got a whole lot of bombs around here, so let's just stop the war here and make all the bombs go away. And he pulls out a Zippo and drops it in the building. I guess it sets off the whole building, because there's also a gas canister around as well. And the whole building blows up, and then we see Goemon starting to fight the other assassin guy, and pretty much avoiding all his shots as the guy's trying to kill him. Then, out of nowhere, Fujiko comes out of nowhere and uses a machine gun and kills the assassin guys. And she's like, I just want to save you, get my share of the money, make it look like I was working for it, and pay you back for, saving my ass earlier. And apparently the other assassin guy's name is Namikov, and I didn't pick up on that at all. Because he's like, so aren't you going to try and escape now? Because Cynthia's already, heading out probably. Because your plan's wrecked now, so you might as well try and escape while you still can. But then we see his part of the building start to collapse and literally crush him to death. And of course, Lupin and Jigen are in there as well. And then once the smoke clears, there's enough space of a hole for them just to escape and be like, yeah, see, lucky brooch. It saved our ass. And we see Cynthia going back to the hotel after getting news that the weapon shipment has been destroyed. It's going to take them 6 months before getting more shipment. So she's like, I need to get to my room. And the guy at the front desk is like, we're going to need a different payment plan actually, because your credit card's been declined, just so you're aware. And then we find out Lupin's at the bar behind her. She's like, don't write checks to people you don't know. And he forged some checks, and now her bank account is completely empty, wiped clean. And as Cynthia goes on about the trinket or the brooch, she was interested in it because I guess her father was assassinated, and they're trying to leave this torn area that they lived in. And Lupin's like, so you want to succeed where your father failed. Dictators aren't very factual these days. You know that, right, Cynthia? And then Lupin makes her a deal saying if the water spills over with me putting this coin into the glass, and with the brooch already being in the glass, if you put your coin in the glass as well, if the water spills over, I keep the brooch and you lose. So they do it, and of course the water does spill over, and she's like, it's not my luck. And he's like, yeah, people like you and you usually never do win. So then as Lupin's walking away, she gets ready to shoot him, but he flicks another coin, and it literally lands right where the turn of the gun, the part where you pull the trigger, and then the stock, I guess, bumps it, and the gun goes off. It blocks it, and then out of nowhere, the inspector comes in. He's like, Cynthia, you're under arrest for all this other crap. We see Lupin and Jigen sitting outside. Jigen's reading the paper, and then Goemon shows up, and Lupin's like, hey, I thought you were going off your spiritual woman. And he's like, she's gone. And they're like, what do you mean? She took all my money and she left me. He's like, you got screwed over by a woman as well. Ha, sucker. And then Jigen's like, so where'd the brooch go, actually, Lupin? He's like, don't worry about it. And then we see this TV broadcast going on, and it's actually Sandy singing, and it's, pretty much on her chest plate. And then out of nowhere, then we see Fujiko running over and hiding underneath the table. He's like, just hide me, please, just hide me. And then this guy drives up. He's like, hey, did you see a woman run by her? And they're like, no. We couldn't find out she gave some bad stock ideas, and the person went broke, and now they want their money back. And then we see the inspector and some more cops show up to arrest Lupin, and then we just see them running all the way through the street signs, and the credits are rolling, and the movie is over. I gotta say, I enjoyed this movie a lot. I tried to pay as much attention as possible. Like I said, the heat is just crazy right now. It's really hard to focus. But I think I did a fairly well job for my first anime episode for the podcast, hopefully. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I personally enjoyed it a lot. I think it's a very fun movie. And on the Rotten scale, out of 10, I'm giving it a 7.5. I love the animation style. I absolutely love it. And the voice acting team is amazing. I think they did a really good job. And I definitely highly recommend checking out. Like I said, watch on Tubi. It's free there. It was free on YouTube, but sadly I took it down. There's other Lupin movies on YouTube, but like I said, you can find a whole collection on Tubi, so definitely go check it out there. Which brings us to what we're going to be watching next week. So we're going to watch another movie that's off of Tubi. It's from 1984. It's an action crime thriller. It's for an hour and 30 minutes long. We're going to watch Exterminator 2, another first time watch for me, so I'm looking forward to watching this one. It's apparently in the Leaving Soon section, so by the time you listen to this podcast, it might be gone, but I don't really know.
But yeah, hopefully it'll be a good one. Hopefully you guys will tune in next time for that one. As always, make sure to check out the outro band, Toronto-based horror band, Blood Opera. All the links are down below. And you can find their new album on SoundCloud, Spotify. I'm sure it's on SoundCloud too. But yeah, I meant to say Spotify. It's really late. I'm getting really goddamn tired, to be honest with you guys. Definitely go check it out there. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube as well. And I'm sure anywhere else that you post anything. Maybe Threads, I don't know. Is Threads even a thing anymore? But anyways, you can also check out all my social media links down below as well. At Typhonstein. We're on Instagram, we're on X, we're on Threads. Even though I don't post so much on there. We're on TikTok, but the main thing we have is the YouTube channel where we post the weekly gaming video every Wednesday. We have various live streams, as well as shorts and other content going up as well. So definitely go hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And feel free to give this podcast review if you're on Spotify, star rating. If you're on Apple, give it a little review. Castbox, I don't know if they have a review site or anything. If you're listening to it on YouTube, by the time this episode is on there, give it a comment, like, share, all that other fun stuff. And I'll talk to you guys all later. Peace.
I am the whisper in the classroom, the writing on the wall. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
You used to play that childhood game, didn't you? The one where we chant his name. Was it true? Staring was it?